Hi everyone, I'm Marina from Frocks Frolics, and we are kicking off a series of videos that I am super excited about. This is Fairytale land for me for the first time. Everyone that knows me knows I'm not the most frilly person, but I have got princess fever now, I tell you, and I hope that you will too. This first one is a Princess Belle costume, and I've got loads of options there for you. We're going to look at the pattern in a minute, but very important to me was that you can make this whether you have just a little experience or lots of experience. So I've got an option for a zipper closure at the back, and then we've got the opposite one where you don't need any closure at all because we just substituted the back with a jersey panel, so you can just stretch it onto the skirt. So both options are there for you. So this is a very time-consuming little project, but oh my, the results are stunning. So let's have a look at this pattern in more detail. One of the first things you have to do, first print off, obviously, using Adobe Acrobat DC. Don't try to print it off from your iPad or your tablet or anything like that. It doesn't work all the time. I have had people that said, oh, but it works, it was fine. But I have got other people that have contacted me and said, no, it doesn't work. And I would recommend to you that you go on Debbie's site. It's called So Easy. She has got a very brilliant article on all of this and tells you exactly how to print off PDF patterns and why you can't use a tablet with a pre-installed system. So what you want to do is either, depending on where you live, measure the centimeter scale, which is 5 centimeter, or the test scale, which is just 1 inch. This is the pattern once printed off. It's not the normal multi-size pattern you get. I jam as much as I can onto one piece of paper. So you can see it here, it's like it's all over the shop. So it's a matter of just cutting these out. We can look at our little plan, how things go together. So we've got here, for example, for the skirt, A, B, C, D, E, and F. G, and so now I'm going to go on to a German pattern because I noticed that my YouTube video and the video here at the Academy was actually cutting off and the original file was lost. So I'm voicing this over for you now from the German version, but of course you have the English pattern. Right, let's get started by cutting out all the individual pieces. Now you will notice that I don't have multi-size pattern. Every size has its own file. They're very easy to put together. You've got attachment lines here, so you can put, for example, the front A to front B very easily. So there's nothing very complicated about that, and it saves a lot of paper, and that is really important to me. I don't want to use more, and you can save ink and all the rest of it. Right, so you get your layout plan here and you can check which pieces go together. It's usually quite easy in the smaller sizes, and then as you go up there might be more pieces to, like, say, the front. This is my front lining piece, so I'm just getting A and I'm getting B. Grab yourself some sellotape and sellotape it together, and I'm doing the same for the front piece, A and B. And there we go. I continue on doing that with all the patterns, and I am now here done. So let's have a look at the individual pieces. Let's have a look at the skirt first. It's a very long piece, as you can see here, because we're pleating it up. And you need about 10 of these, and you can either gather the sides or you can do the traditional pleats. When you put them on the fabric, it's actually very economical. You'll use less fabric than you think on those 10 pieces. And if you are putting a zip in, then you need to leave an opening for the zip, and if not, then you just sew all the pieces together. I gather most of you have done it with the jersey back, which is way easier. So how do we do the pleats? You have got a little arrow on there, shows you which direction you have to pleat up.
and then we're just going to sew them together from the side. Now, when you are sewing it from the lower end, the pleats might fold over, so you need to be very careful that that doesn't happen. It's very annoying because you do so much of it if you haven't watched out for that, and then you have like about 15 or 20 you need to open again. So just watch out for that and pin it well. Now I want to demonstrate the other skirt because I get questions about this all the time. It's very easy. You have a rectangular measurement in your pattern, but the front dips down a little bit. And to get this dip, you need the other piece of pattern, which is just the pattern for the tip onto your pattern piece, onto your fabric, and then all you do is from the side you just run it in to that point, and that makes sure that the front doesn't dip down, right? So that it's exactly the same as on the bodice. And when you take the whole width of the fabric, which could be 1 meter 40, there will be a lot to gather if you're doing the gathered skirt, right? So what I tended to do was to just create a side seam which comes in on itself towards the top a bit. That way you have less gathers in it. So go out 12 centimeters and just draw a line down. Now when you're coming down to the hem though, you need to be careful that you have a straight bit there and you don't go down like this, because then it would be hard to do the hemming in that area. But if you come out about 6-7 centimeters above, then it's absolutely perfect and it's very simple. So for the back you just cut it maybe with the sides reduced, and for the front you cut it on the fold and you put the tip in. Make sure here that you leave an opening, of course, for the zip if that's what you want to do. Let's have a look at the front piece. It goes together with the center front piece here, which is the part which you can embroider, you can put lace on. So here I've got a little bit of lace that I could overlay, and make sure that you have got a distinct end there, that you don't leave any of the tulle. Like in my case here, you want to definitely get rid of that, and make sure that you do not start at the top, but that you leave space for the seam allowance, because if you do start at the top, it's not going to be easy then to turn the whole front in, because of course it's going to be lined and there will be no place for the lining. I did that on my first little sample dress and I went, it doesn't work. So make sure you go down that centimeter seam allowance so that it's easy to do. The two laces I'm using here were dead cheap. I got them just from the market and I just overlay them working down. I think it's absolutely beautiful. There's so many things you can do, and if you want to embroider something, make sure that you embroider the fabric first and then cut out the center front. So get a big piece of fabric, draw on what it's going to look like, get it under your embroidery machine, embroider, and then cut out. Now here we've got the pieces together, and then I'm going to put just a little bit of lace over the side that creates this beautiful V shape, which you really love, and that makes it like a princess dress for the bell inspired dress. The front lining here does not have the front tip bit in it. It doesn't need to. It's in one piece, and also that's very easy then to do. If you wanted to do a different dress which doesn't have that front bit in, you can also work with that. One thing I want to point out, if you look at Magdalena on the left wearing it, is that it's got a very low waist. This looks great with a tip, but you could also lift the waist if you wanted to. You can make all these kind of alterations if you wanted to create a different look. I also do it in regular and slender, and the difference is 4 centimeters. So it's very, very easy to just make it smaller. Now, say for example, your girl is really tall and she's really skinny as well, then you can go in a little bit more, of course. Just check the measurements and take it in a bit more. So in my case, Magdalena needed that doing. So now that we want to make sure that the curve for the underarm is still in there. So what you want to do is take the other pattern piece, just put it on and then draw the curve in, all right? So that you get the proportions right. And you need to do the same thing, obviously, to the lining if you're doing that, and to the back pieces as well. And you can just work with that. It's very, very simple. Now, the back piece has two different pattern pieces. One for the insertion with a zip, and then we've got one which is the one for the jersey and spandex back, which is much easier to work, of course, because your girl can just slip into it. And there's a huge difference. So do not get them confused. The back piece for the zip is bigger than the one with spandex or jersey. And when you're inserting the zip, it's going to be a concealed zip, and it's only got a 1 centimeter seam allowance there. Seam allowance throughout is, by the way, 1 centimeter anyway for all my patterns. So what we're going to do with the jersey part is we're going to stretch that to fit the skirt, and that way it's super, super easy to do, and you don't have to bother with putting in a zip. But I know some of you will make it as a flower girl dress, and then it's actually really, really nice if you have the zip option. You can see that if you had 3 of those panels now, that you would have to stretch it quite a bit to get the skirt on. So you have got enough room there, and it's absolutely beautiful. Now, if you wanted to do it with the gathered skirt, you need to make sure that your gathered skirt then is wider than the back, about 6 centimeters, and then we'll gather that in the same way. You know, we'll stretch the knit fabric to fit those gathers, and so you could use the gathered skirt with a knit back in the same way as you would with a panel skirt. Now I'm going to show you the sleeve. For all your dresses, you need that sleeve lining twice. And in case you do it just like I show you on the picture on the side, if you do the shawl version, you need this pattern piece 4 times. Now I have got another option for you, which is option 2, which I think is really lovely. That means you have a straight top which lies around the shoulder and a gathered lower hem part, and I just bind it with bias binding, and it looks absolutely gorgeous around the shoulder. And it really did take us a while to work out how to do this. Now this pattern piece is the one you need for that. It's gonna say sleeve option 2, and you need to cut that twice in the upper material, and that will then go onto the lining piece that we've just talked about before, and that gives you a whole another option, and I think it's really, really super nice. Now we're going to look at the other option that you can see blended in, and it's the slight little puff sleeve. And that is your option 1 again, and you need the lining for it, and you just gather the top part to fit, and then you have got this beautiful look. And what I've done here is I've just gathered some tulle to go on the top. And I've also used an extra piece of lining here so that no seam is visible, right? You can also do it without the tulle, of course, and then always think about what you can do, how you can embellish it even nicer. And even if you're not making a princess dress, you're making something for a wedding, for example, flower girl dress. I mean, there is a lot you can do with this pattern, so have a good think about that. Just have a look at this here where I have the shawl going around. I mean, it's absolutely stunning, and if you're making this dress for a 12-year-old, I'll tell you, she'll love it. Anyway, so now I'm going to just show you the binding here, and all it is a rectangular shape, and we're going to do that straight because you actually do want it to hold very well and not to stretch whatsoever. This is just going to be put on here, and it'll pull down the sleeve really nicely and look absolutely fab. When you fold in from both sides, make sure that you have something left standing in the center. It makes it so much easier when you fold over your bias binding. Now here you can see what you get when you are getting my pattern. You've got loads of videos for it. You've got the links in the actual instructions. these instructions were probably a little bit overkill, but this has been out now for years, this dress, and so many people have made it, and it's the dress for a princess dress. And people have been writing to me. I've got so many emails saying, man, this is so fantastic. I love this dress. I hope you join the Facebook group, share what you're making, and I hope this will stay your favorite throughout. And that's it. I hope you're going to love it as much as I do. You can find the link to the pattern up here in the info box, or you can find the link in the description. You can get the dress from Etsy.com as well if you've got an account there, but I prefer it if you buy it from my website because you automatically get added to the video courses there as well. So that's really quite important, because most of the time people say, oh, can you unlock a course for me? And although this course is completely free, at least you don't have to look around YouTube to find it in future when you're sewing your dress. So thank you very much for watching this very long introduction, and I see you for the next project soon.